President Barack Obama. He was campaigning for you in Pittsburgh before some students at the University of Pittsburgh, which is my alma mater. And he said some things that really ruffled some feathers in the news. He said, "It makes me think you aren't just feeling the idea of having a woman as a president. You're coming up with other alternatives and other reasons for that. We have not seen the same kind of energy and turnout in all corners of our neighborhoods and community as we saw when I was running." So when you hear those words, I'm sure you were briefed on the situation. A former Ohio State Senator, Nina Turner, she came out on CNN and said, "Why are you, putting black men up against the wall and pressuring them into something that possibly, they don't want to do if they want to vote for you or not?" So my question to you is, do you think that what President Obama said was the right thing to say? I'm Justin Carter on ground here in Greenville, North Carolina with the Vice President Kamala Harris. She's announcing something big, not only for black men, but for all black people. We also talked HBCUs. We talked Beyoncé. It's all coming up on a special edition and exclusive TSR Newz. Vice President Kamala Harris in the building. VP, are you with me?
I'm with you. It's so good to see you again, Justin. Thank you.
It's been so long.
Since
Well, not
January,
really.
I realized.
Yeah, it's been like several months. And January 2024, you invited us for an Air Force 2 trip from LA to Las Vegas.
You remember that?
And it was just with Chef Jeff. We were talking about some policies that you were initiating, and now here we are. How do we get here? You smell good, you look good.
Oh, that's better than smelling bad. Thank you.
I know, you smell great, you look great. Do you
appreciate you.
feel
That's very
great?
kind.
It has been a whirlwind for you.
I feel good. Listen, we have 23 days as of today until the election, and I am in these streets traveling and talking with folks. We're here in North Carolina.
Yeah.
It's very exciting. You know what's exciting for me is like the rally we're about to do this afternoon in states around our country. People by the thousands are packing these rooms, but the thing that I love about it is people of every different kind of background coming together. And there's so much about how I feel about our message and our movement, if you will, that is grounded in certain beliefs, including the fact that the vast majority of us have so much more in common than what separates us. And it's so important to me that over the course of this campaign, we must win. That's our first imperative, no doubt. But that we build up community, right? And coalitions. I think that's so important.
One big theme of your campaign has been freedom.
Yes.
Freedom, right?
Yes, yes.
Freedom, freedom, I can't lose. I'm not going to mess up the words, and I don't want to get sued
It's
by
so good.
Beyonce.
And there are a couple of versions that she has, right?
I know. Did you call up the queen? Like, how did that work?
She absolutely gave me permission to use the song. I love her, and
Have you met her?
I have met her, but not since I've been running just now.
Okay.
But I have met her, and she's just very special.
Yeah. Talk about freedom and what that means to you. Why that song? It's just imperative. It's crucial right now, what's going on in 2024.
I think that there is so much about what is at stake that is, frankly, the need for us to fight for the things that we hold dear, that we have always had to fight for, but must continue to fight for if they're going to be intact. And frankly, just to be very candid with you, I'm seeing across our country a full-on attempt by some to attack these hard-won freedoms and rights, right? The freedom to vote. In Georgia, for example, they passed a law making it illegal to give people food and water for standing in line to vote, which the hypocrisy abounds. Whatever happened to love thy neighbor? You look at the freedom to make decisions, for a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. The freedom to love who you love openly and with pride. The freedom to just be is under attack in so many places. And the freedom to be safe from gun violence, right? And so there is so much about what's at stake in this election that really is about fighting for freedom, because the difference between me and my opponent, the former president, Donald Trump, couldn't be more different on so many of these issues. And so I'm so proud, and it always just gives me an extra pep, because Beyonce's Freedom is my walk-on song in all of these rallies. And
Did you guys share a moment, you and Beyonce?
I mean, you know,
What was that conversation like?
She and I have. I'll tell you, the last time that I saw her was a couple years ago at BT event, and I mean, and her mother though I've been seeing a lot recently because Beyonce's been on tour. She's been doing her thing. Tina is so amazing.
Woman of the Year, Glamour.
Yeah. She's very special. She's very special. She's been supporting me for years. And she actually, the last time I talked to her, she was organizing hairstylists and women who have salons and, you know, who are incredible small business owners to get involved around getting out the vote.
Speaking of getting out the vote, you guys are on an HBCU tour.
Yes, we are.
That's amazing.
Yes,
Come on,
we
HU,
are.
you know.
You know. In fact, I was with a group of incredible, distinguished men last night in North Carolina, and we were all, you know, and they were all, you know, there to support my candidacy and to talk about, there a lot of them are business owners. But then, you know, I'm not going to say we digress, but we definitely got into it about who went to which school.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you.
And had a healthy level of disrespect for each other.
Well, oh man, well this next question might be, you know, a little controversial. So if you didn't go to Howard, is there another school?
I can't imagine a world like that.
Would you be a Spelman? Would you be a Spelman girl? Would you go to FAMU? You know, they're very prideful down there in Florida.
And they should be. And there is a reason that Howard is called the Mecca.
Ooh.
And I'm very proud to be a Bison. See, but we all have fun with each other. But you know what? We have fun with each other because here's the thing that we know, all of us. I mean, you mentioned all the schools, whether it be Spelman, FAMU, Morehouse, I mean, Shaw, all these schools. We have fun banter among us that is absolutely rooted in a collective pride that we share about our HBCU roots, because it is a very special experience, and it is something that gives us a kindred, I think, look on life about pride and about the pride in the success that we collectively achieve, a knowledge that we collectively stand on very broad shoulders of those historic leaders who graduated from each of these schools. And it is actually with that spirit and that sense of family that then we give each other a hard time about which school does what.
It's all in good fun. It's in good fun.
It's good. It's good fun. It's good fun.
Obviously, we're walking into a week where, you know, you've been talking about really encouraging Black men specifically to get out and vote. And I do want to talk about the numbers. I crunched some numbers at 3 o'clock this morning. Okay. There was a poll on Saturday. It said that almost 80% of likely Black voters would vote for you if the election were held today. In 2020, though, it was 90% of Black voters overall. That was from the New York Times and Siena College. And then in 2016, you know, they also had a poll, the Pew Research Center. They said 81% of Black men voted for Hillary Clinton, 14% voted for Trump. In 2020, though, that number jumped 6%. So 87% of Black men voted for Biden, 12% voted for Trump in 2020. So when you hear those numbers and you're seeing, you know, in the polls and you're seeing Black men aren't as, quote, excited or fired up for you, how do you respond to that?
Well, that's not my experience.
Okay.
One, that's not my experience. Two, Election Day has not arrived yet.
Okay.
And the third point that is probably the most important point is this. You know, when journalists ask me this question, I often will say to them that let's be clear that your underlying premise is not an assumption that I'm supposed to have Black men in my back pocket in terms of their vote, and that I should be taking that for granted, because I don't. Black men are no different from anybody else. They expect that you have to earn their vote. And that's why I'm out here doing the work that I'm doing, about talking with folks, listening with folks, because I'm running for president of the United States. And it is incumbent on me to earn the support. And that is why I'm talking with folks about the work that I have done in my career, whether it be in particular as vice president, what I've done to put more billions of dollars actually into community banks to increase access to capital for small business owners. Even before I was running for president, I convened a bunch of black small business owners, all who were men, and I purposely convened them. I brought them into my ceremonial office at the White House to have a meeting about what their needs are and to make sure that they have the information about what's available to them in terms of financing, capital, and access to capital, support for what they want to do in terms of building or growing their business. So that's the kind of work I will continue to do. But here's the other thing that I think is equally important, is pointing out that there are two very different visions for our nation that are being presented to voters right now. On the one side, you've got Donald Trump, who wants to take us backward. Donald Trump, who, let's not forget, when he was renting his apartments and his property, refused to rent to black families. Donald Trump, who, as it relates to 5 young black men, they were actually teenagers and Latinos, the Central Park 5, he took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for their execution. They were innocent. Donald Trump, who referred to the first black president and suggested, remember the birtherism lies, that he couldn't have been born in the United States. Donald Trump, who in his Project 2025, you know, the various things that would happen would include allowing it or making it easier for companies to not give workers overtime pay. We capped the cost of prescription medication at $2,000 a year for seniors and capped the cost of insulin at $35 for our seniors. That's our grandparents, our parents. Black folks are 60% more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes. His plan would eliminate that cap. So part of the reason that I am out here talking with folks, listening to folks, is to make sure that I am communicating and letting them know about the real contrast that is being presented. Because my bottom line is this: I know the power that people have to make a difference, and I respect that power. And I am out here doing the work of earning then the vote so that we can get to the job of continuing to move forward. And for me, that is about pushing for an opportunity economy, which is about tapping into the ambitions and the aspirations of folks and doing the work of investing in community, investing in industries, strengthening our economy, and giving people dignity in the process.
Now, you have a friend. His name is Barack Hussein Obama. You know him?
I do know him. I do.
He recently, in Pittsburgh.
President.
Let's get it right.
Yes.
Yeah, President. President Barack Obama. He was campaigning for you in Pittsburgh before some students at the University of Pittsburgh, which is my alma mater. And he said some things that really ruffled some feathers in the news. He said, "It makes me think you aren't just feeling the idea of having a woman as a president. You're coming up with other alternatives and other reasons for that. We have not seen the same kind of energy and turnout in all corners of our neighborhoods and community as we saw when I was running." So when you hear those words, I'm sure you were briefed on the situation. A former Ohio State Senator, Nina Turner, she came out on CNN and said, "Why are you putting black men up against the wall and pressuring them into something that possibly, they don't want to do if they want to vote for you or not?" So my question to you is, do you think that what President Obama said was the right thing to say?
Let me tell you, I am very proud to have the support of President Obama, and that he is out traveling to talk with voters about what is at stake in this election. I'm very proud to have his support. What is also important is, one, to understand, like as I said, I intend to earn the vote of everyone, including black men. 2, pay attention to everything that President Obama talked about, because he also talked about at length the danger of Donald Trump the danger of Donald Trump in terms of somebody who has said that they would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies, somebody who has referred to black immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, legal immigrants, as though they would eat their pets, constantly perpetuating tropes. Remember, Donald Trump, who said in Charlottesville, there are good people on each side. So I think it's really important to focus on the stakes of this election, and there are two choices. And I ask everyone to look at the background, look at the work, look at the words, to have a sense of how you then choose to use the power of your vote on Election Day. But there is a very big difference between Donald Trump and how I will be President of the United States. And I cannot impress upon people enough that this is somebody, Donald Trump, who intends to take us backward. Look, this man won't even debate me a second time. He won't even debate me a second time. He didn't do the 60 Minutes interview, which I believe every presidential candidate for President of the United States has done. He will not take up the important responsibility that every presidential candidate has done of showing their medical records, okay?
Which you just did?
Which I have done. Of course I've done it. I have done that. I have challenged him to another debate. I have given up my medical records. I did the 60 Minutes interview. And one has to ask, what is Donald Trump trying to hide? What is his staff and his team trying to keep from you? And it may be the fact that, like the people who work closest with him, his chief of staff in the White House, his national security advisor, his secretaries of defense. Recently, we got the report about General Mark Milley, who all, in some, have basically said Donald Trump is unfit to be President of the United States and is a danger. And there are many who are believing that all of this points to an individual who is also quite unstable and unfit to be President of the United States. Those are the stakes at play in this election.
One more thing I want to ask you before you go, and I think it's the fun part. I want to ask you about your plan for Black men.
Yes.
It's something huge
Yes.
that you have just released this
Yes.
week. We're talking about 1 million loans that are fully forgivable up to $20,000
Right.
to Black entrepreneurs, men and women,
Yes.
correct? Expanding access to bank accounts, expanding the child tax credit. Many things that you're
Housing.
doing.
Don't
Housing,
forget my housing.
lowering rent, making it affordable to buy a house for
Yes.
first-time home buyers.
Correct.
Talk to me about this
Yes.
plan, just in
Yeah.
summary, and how this will impact not only Black men, but all Black people.
Sure. So look, I grew up in the middle class. My mother worked hard, she saved up, and by the time I was a teenager, she was able to buy our first home. I will never forget where I came from. Okay, by the way, my opponent, Donald Trump, was handed $400 million basically on a silver platter and filed for bankruptcy 6 times. So just keep that in mind about who's coming from where. I know the ambitions, the aspirations, the incredible work ethic that exists in our community. I know the dreams that exist, but not everyone has started out on the same base in terms of being able to realize their goals and their dreams. So my plan is to build what I call an opportunity economy, which means giving people an opportunity to actually achieve those ambitions, those goals, and those dreams. So for example, housing is too expensive. The American dream is something that previous generations could kind of count on, but no more. So one part of the problem is that we have a supply issue in terms of housing supply. My plan includes working with developers to do and home builders to create incentives for them to build 3 million new homes by the end of my first term. The second part, which is equally important, if not more, is to give people, first-time home buyers, a $25,000 down payment assistance. Because what you and I know is a lot of folks want to be a homeowner, but they don't come from money. They don't come from some families that can necessarily give them or pass on a home or give them the equity out of their home to help them with the down payment. $25,000 down payment assistance just helps people get their foot in the door to then save up to cover a mortgage. $6,000 child tax credit. I'm expanding the child tax credit to $6,000 for young families so that in the first year of their child's life, they have the resources they need to buy a crib, a car seat, clothes, knowing that all parents have a natural desire to parent their children well, but not all parents have the resources to be able to do that. Opportunity. Small businesses. My second mother, our second mother, who helped raise us, was a small business owner. I know who our small business owners are. For our communities, they are part of the cultural, economic, civic fabric of our communities. They hold the strength of hiring locally, mentoring, all that. So I'm going to change so that the tax deduction for a startup small business, change it from what it is, it's $5,000. Nobody can start a small business with $5,000 to $50,000. And included in that, knowing that a lot of startup businesses then have overhead around, for example, what they need to do to buy equipment. For those who are startup and don't have the connections historically, a $20,000 forgivable loan for them to be able, for example, to pay to set up a really good website so that their business could then thrive.
It might intersect with PPP loans and how, a mess, some people were involved with that, the PPP loans and fraud and all of that?
Fraud, listen, I spent a career prosecuting people for fraud, so we will take care of the abuses, but that's not a reason to not give people an opportunity to thrive. I think there is a real misconception that people just, and only their highest aspiration is to have a job. That's not where I come from in terms of how I think of it. The baseline should be everybody has a job. What we should be doing is creating incentives for people to be able to build wealth and build intergenerational wealth. But again, knowing that not everybody starts out on the same base, but when you give them a little bit to just compete, they will work around the clock, good ideas, innovative ideas, and when they have just that little bit extra, it gives them what they need to actually get in there, compete, and thrive. That's the that's the theory behind the $20,000 forgivable loan for people at a certain threshold, to just give them the resources, like I said, to start up a website, to buy the equipment they need depending on the kind of business that they're creating, so that that's not the barrier to what otherwise is going to be their incredible work ethic and hustle to actually make a success out of their smart idea that actually has relevance to the community.
Wow. We are watching. Thank you so much, Vice President Kamala Harris, for joining us.
It's good to be with you.
It's so important that you're here talking with us. Black media, it's so important.
Of course,
Thank you.
always.